Reducing conflict and elevating your impact. Strategies for leading with greater effectiveness and harmony. Abstract. This research brief examines strategies for leaders to more effectively manage conflict and enhance their positive influence. It explores how conflict, if left unresolved, can significantly undermine individual and organizational performance. The brief outlines a framework combining research insights with practical approaches for reducing the costs of conflict. Key recommendations include developing self-awareness of one's tendencies, fostering psychological safety, listening to understand diverse perspectives, focusing on shared interests versus positions, and reframing differences as opportunities for collaborative problem-solving and learning. Real-world examples demonstrate applying these strategies consistently and flexibly across situations. The brief argues that by shifting one's mindset and adopting these research-backed methods, leaders can transform discordant interactions into collaborative solutions that strengthen relationships, cooperation, and overall effectiveness within their teams. Conflict is an inevitable aspect of organizational life that all leaders must navigate. Yet too often, conflict is handled ineffectively, creating division and diminished results rather than solutions and growth. As a management consultant with over 15 years supporting leaders in building high-performing cultures, I have seen firsthand the tremendous benefits that can come from shifting one's approach to conflict. When handled skillfully and intentionally, differences can be a catalyst for innovation, deeper understanding, and stronger relationships throughout the team. Today we will explore research-backed strategies and tools I have found most useful in empowering leaders to dramatically reduce conflict and enhance their positive influence. With a reoriented mindset and these practical methods, you can transform discord into cooperation and lead your organization to even greater success. The costs of unresolved conflict. Before delving into solutions, it is important to understand the costs of poorly managed conflict. A wealth of research has found that when differences are brushed aside or handled aggressively, they undermine performance, morale, and retention. Fundamentally, conflict stems from opposing beliefs, needs, or perspectives colliding within a group. Deutsch. 1973. If not addressed constructively, it seeds resentment, lack of trust, and disengagement. Gem. 1995. Prolonged exposure to high conflict is similarly damaging to physical and mental well-being. Dollard et al. 1939. Beyond the individual toll, unresolved tensions between team members undermine collaboration and effectiveness. When people are distracted by interpersonal strife, they cannot focus fully on the task at hand. Jen and Bender-Sky. 2003. Studies indicate group conflict is negatively correlated with both objective measures like productivity and subjective ratings of success. DeWitt et al. 2012. The consequences multiply exponentially as discord rises to higher levels within the organization. As a leader, your job is to prevent these kinds of costs by surfacing issues early and guiding people towards mutually agreeable solutions. Cultivate self-awareness to strengthen conflict competence. The starting point for more constructively handling differences begins within, by developing keen self-awareness of your own default tendencies and hot buttons. Many leaders' instinct is to either aggressively push their way through challenges or sweep tensions under the rug, neither of which yields enduring resolution. Thomas and Kilman. 1974. To counter this, take time for reflection using tools like conflict style assessments to understand your predominant inclinations and how they might impact others. Rahim. 1983. Awareness of implicit biases also shapes one's conflict competence. We all have unconscious leanings that can unfairly skew our perceptions and responses in high-stakes discussions. Greenwald and Banerjee. 1995. I have found exercises like Harvard's implicit association tests valuable for clients grappling with preconceptions that fuel unintentional miscues. Greenwald et al. 1998. With self-knowledge, you can catch latent prejudices before they undermine trust or fairness in addressing conflicts. Armed with insight into your natural inclinations, you can then make deliberate choices to employ alternative, more constructive styles when needed. For example, openly acknowledging a tendency to argue positions and committing to also draw out others' perspectives. Self-aware leaders navigate differences from a place of objectivity rather than reactivity. Listen to understand before seeking to be understood once attuned to potential blind spots. The next step is ushering in an environment where all parties feel genuinely listened to and respected. As Stephen Covey famously said, "Seek first to understand, then to be understood." Covey, 1989. In practice, this means using skills like reflective listening, paraphrasing and asking open-ended questions to get below surface statements and accurately apprehend others' deeper interests. Needs and Rationales, Rogers and Farson, 1957. By taking time for this kind of listening, as a leader you model valuing everyone's viewpoint, which research shows reduces defensiveness and increases cooperation. Kramer and Messick, 1995. It also surfaces shared higher priorities that can form the basis of a joint resolution, rather than an imposed answer. Pruitt and Kim, 2004. Truly listening with an open and empathetic mind is invaluable for minimizing the "my side vs. your side" dynamic that often prolongs disputes needlessly. With understanding comes progress. Find the shared opportunity once all perspectives have aired openly. Guide the discussion towards excavating the underlying shared opportunities or higher purpose that originally brought the team together. Gray, 1989. Focus on interests, not positions. More often than conflicts are about factual issues. They stem from clashing yet reconcilable needs, whether for control, recognition, fairness, or simply clarity in expectations. By reframing differences as a chance to better satisfy joint core interests, you shift people's minds away from antagonism towards cooperation. Fisher and Ury, 1991. For example, in a debate over work allocation, steer dialogue to the shared goals of maximizing impact, using strengths and ongoing learning. This reveals overlap that can form the basis of an expanded allocation plan agreeable to all. Look for the 80% of common ground amidst the 20% separating views. With cooperation as the North Star, seemingly rigid positions transform into flexible problem solving. While compromise may be needed, jointly crafting win-win resolutions has far greater staying power than traded concessions alone. As a consultant, I've seen many productive long-term partnerships blossom from seemingly rocky beginnings by leaders persistently guiding towards shared interests and purpose. Move from debate to inquiry finally, when conflict does flare up. Move people from reactive debate into collaborative inquiry. Rather than arguments to convince, engage all sides in thoughtful discussion to further everyone's collective understanding. Questions like, what factors might explain the different perspectives in the room? Shift energy to enlightenment rather than opposition. Dedicate airtime equally to exploring each view fully with neutral follow-ups like, can you provide an example of what you mean? This keeps the process fair and brings lingering assumptions and rationale to light. Getting everyone on the same page factually in a calm, cooperative spirit is essential before moving to resolution. Approaching differences as a mutual learning process builds the trust for compromise when insights don't fully align. Leaders often achieve breakthroughs by cultivating not just agreement but also empathy between conflicting parties. Axelrod, 1984. By reframing disputes as a shared search for insight, you elevate everyone towards wisdom over winning alone. Putting it all into practice, having shared frameworks. The hard work remains in applying these ideas amidst the day-to-day challenges of leading teams. Allow me to close by reflecting on how I've seen the above strategies play out at the ground level. Some key lessons. Model self-aware behavior consistently by openly acknowledging when you've likely reacted in past patterns. Then invite alternative views respectfully. This builds others' confidence to do the same. Carve out undistracted time and space for thorough debriefs. Shut off devices and remove titles to promote psychological safety. Use specific techniques like reflective listening, inquiry and joint brainstorming, but flex styles fluidly based on the nature and people in each conflict. When tempers rise, take a break. Return strengthened by gaining perspective rather than weakened reactively meeting force with force. Focus discussions on interests and shared purpose, using specific examples. Avoid generalizations people can argue against. Follow through on commitments from resolutions to increase trust in the process for next time. Conclusion: the research illustrates both the significant costs of unresolved conflict for individuals and organizations, as well as practical, research-backed strategies any leader can adopt to instead transform conflict into a driver of understanding, cooperation and peak performance. With dedication to developing self-awareness, fostering psychological safety, uncovering shared interests and approaching disputes as collaborative problem-solving, even historically tense groups can reach new depths of unity. While not without dedicated effort, the returns of markedly reduced conflict and elevated influence make a strong case that it is indeed worth leaders' while to reimagine how they approach and guide groups through inevitable differences. I hope these ideas prove useful in your own leadership journey.